Baltimore, the charmed city. A city of neighborhoods with 66 National Register Historic Districts and 33 local historic districts. I've lived a bit south of Baltimore for almost 20 years, but rarely ventured into the city except for specific events. But that's all about to change. Nearly one-third of the city's buildings are designated as historic in the National Register, more than any other U.S. city. Founded in 1729, there's so much history and culture in the Mid-Atlantic's second largest port city that to ignore this and not experience it and share those adventures would be a great opportunity lost. Follow along as we explore the historical and cultural gems of the city and get to know those neighborhoods that have bonded together to make this city what it is. A colorful mix of beauty, quirkiness, and blue-collar personality that makes it unique among U.S. cities. Come see where we're going today. Hello there. Welcome to our first video in a series we're going to make over this coming spring and summer. That is going to be exploring the many historical neighborhoods, sites, and events that are associated with the city of Baltimore. There's many fun things to do. Baltimore gets a bum rap because it's got a lot of violent crime. Fortunately, it tends to be isolated into a fairly small area and tends to be associated with other types of violent crimes. So really, it's, for the most part, the city's pretty safe. And kind of, like I said, kind of gets a bad rap mainly because of the volume of violent crime. But again, it's isolated. So we're going to spend some time exploring Baltimore. Today, we're going to go to Fort McHenry. So for our excursion, we're going to get up kind of early. There's a pub out in the general area of the fort. And I'm going to talk about the area a little bit here really quickly and some history. Because, we want to understand the neighborhoods. We want to understand why everything is the way it is and where and what for and what how and all the other questions we can possibly think of. But, we want to really get to know the city. So, our first stop is going to be Locust Point. As you can see here, centrally in this photograph, this whole peninsula out in the middle of the harbor is Locust Point. Now we're going to look at Google Maps a little bit and discuss the area. Now we're going to come in here from the south, up Hanover Street, and cross the Hanover Bridge here into this area, which is considered to be South Baltimore. Come up here to Fort Avenue, down Fort Avenue, and we're going to end up down here. Here's the Enlight Flynn Tower, and this is actually where we're going. You notice this is called Locust Point. Now, of course, Baltimore was founded late 1600s, and it took them a while to populate most of this area. Now, when this area was initially populated, this peninsula was called Whetstone, W-H-E-T, Stone Point. And as you can see, it's a very strategic location because this is, let me pan out here, this is the entrance to Baltimore from Chesapeake Bay. This is Chesapeake Bay. So you would come in up the Patapsco River here. Here's the city. And you get to this choke point here. And here's the fort. The fort is looking right down the river. And you can't get in here. There was another fort that was over here. I think this has been modified a little bit since historically this was in place. But somewhere maybe around here there was another fort. And, this is how they defended the city. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to try to bring a ship up here, a ship under sail up here against a battery of guns down here. That'd be crazy. So that's what they were looking at. So this is Locust Point. It's got a few interesting places of note. You've got a couple of parks. You've got the headquarters for Under Armour right here. You've got this is a massive center of industry. You've got all these slipways here for these big ships to come in, and this right here is railroad. I'm going to switch this over to satellite in a minute. You'll be able to see a lot more of this. But this is railways, so when the ships come in, you can get stuff on the railways and get them out. And this is I-95, a major traffic corridor. This goes into the tunnel here. This is the Fort McHenry tunnel. It comes out the other side over here. So let's switch over to the satellite view, and you kind of get a much better sense of what we're looking at. The other one's nice when you're trying to find maps, but when you really want to look at something and understand it, the satellite view is much better. So this is Hanover Street Bridge. We're going to come up here. This is 95. We're going to go under 95 and come up here to Fort Avenue. So this is South Baltimore. This is Locust Point, really. The whole place is considered Locust Point, but this is for sure South Baltimore, Riverside Park, and Locust Point. Now this area was prominently featured in the TV show The Wire, excuse me. They did a lot of videoing here for The Wire. Look, this is kind of cool. You can see where the tunnel, where I-95 goes into the tunnel here, and it comes out right here. So I think that's kind of cool. Now, Whetstone Point still exists. If you look down here, this is Whetstone Point, and if you can imagine back in the early 1700s when this was named, if they ever believed that Whetstone Point would now be a massive place to park cars. Yeah, well, it's Whetstone Point now. So on the grounds here, this is Fort McHenry. The original fort here was called Fort Whetstone, and this was built in 1776 at the time of the Revolution. Never saw any action, though. This was rebuilt in 1798 as Fort McHenry. That was named after, I believe it was John McHenry. He was the third Secretary of War for the United States. So this was Fort McHenry, named after him. They refer to this as a bastioned Pentagon. So we're going to come here. This is where we park. We're going to come in through the visitor center, and we'll have all these grounds to walk around on and take some pictures and things. This is the lower battery. This is where the lower battery guns are. This is the fort itself with the internal buildings and areas for maintaining the supplies and things like that. And basically, in the War of 1812, Admiral Cochrane brought his ships up here, and we're at max range. They didn't want to get anywhere near this thing. So at max range, they were firing rockets and bombarding them with ballistic weapons. And really, there was 4 people killed in Fort McHenry. One was an African-American gentleman by the name of William Williams. One was a female who was hit by a bomb and literally cut in half. And at one point they did try to sally up here with a bunch of barges and were turned back by this fort that was over here. But that was it. So they bombed all night till they were out of ammunition. We bombed back. We hit one ship and I think wounded one person. So that whole night's worth of just bombing was nothing more, there was a few people killed, don't get me wrong, but it ended up being not much more than a fireworks show. Now at the time, Francis Scott Key was sitting out here on the USS, was it President? I forget. So I believe the name of the ship he was on was called the USS President. But that was a truce ship. It was designed to be out here and conduct talks. So anyway, he witnessed the whole thing. And the next morning when the sun came up, the folks at the fort raised an even bigger American flag, signaling that they weren't done, they weren't surrendering, whatever. And the British just sailed away, and Francis Scott Key wrote the poem, The Star-Spangled Banner, or let's see, what did he call it? So he actually wrote the poem. It was called The Defense of Fort McHenry. So it wasn't called The Star-Spangled Banner at that point, and then it was set to music and became our national anthem. So that's there's several things about this that are historic. There was the battle during the War of 1812 that was fought here. This is what generated our national anthem, and it's just a cool area of town, Locust Point. Now, as I had mentioned, this used to be called Whetstone Point. They renamed it Locust Point. Locusts for the locust trees, not for the locust bugs. So this is Locust Point for the locust trees that were there. But it's just a big, nice peninsula sticking out in the middle of the harbor here that splits the Patapsco River, and is right now purely an industrial site. So we're gonna go visit that here, and next time you see us, we'll be on our way, and we're gonna have some fun here. So come along and join us and see what you think. Here we are on the Hanover Street Bridge. It's very nice. To our right and left is I don't like these. I don't know why they always creep me out. To the right and left is the Patapsco River, and as we cross over here, we go into South Baltimore, which is on the peninsula, and this highway up ahead here is 95. Fort Avenue. I'm taking a ride down in St. Patty's Day.
Oh, that's right. We aren't wearing any green at all.
Now, one of the things I wanted to point out was I did a little research on the cost of real estate in this area, and it goes anywhere from a little over $200,000 for a real lower end kind of thing, all the way up to $1 million. Now, mostly what they have here are the standard row houses here, or they'll have condos and townhouses. Now, I did see some really nice townhouses in the upper or in the lower 400,000s, which are just perfectly reasonable for this area. But then you get some stuff that's going to be on the north side, looking out over the inner harbor into Baltimore. That was probably those were the ones that were running upwards towards $1 million.
I like the bay windows.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah. Not bay, but the curve.
We're looking for Andre Street. The names of these streets are all named after people who had some association with the Battle of Fort McHenry. Covington, Jackson, and we're looking for Andre Street. When we come to Andre Street, just on the left, will be in like any moment here. Look at that old
Cooksey Street. Oh, that church. That's nice.
Housing Street.
Andre.
Where?
This street, right here.
Okay, we gotta go left. Is that a four-way stop?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just hurt my neck.
Oh, careful.
I see. I think it's that one.
Ah, there we are.
Parking in the back.
Oh, there is parking in the back?
So. Parking right here.
Oh, nice. Oh, how convenient.
All right, here we are. We just got to the Inn Like Flynn restaurant. As you saw, it was a pretty nice drive, nice area. We're gonna go in here and get some Irish brunch on for our St. Patty's Day weekend.
That entrance?
I think this one.
Open up. Open up.
We're here for brunch. What did you get?
Well, I'm pretty sure I got a grilled vegetable panini, I think. It's got a variety of veggies, and it has some mozzarella cheese on it. I also have some pickles, which I'm surprisingly excited about, and sweet potato fries.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got an omelet with green peppers, onions, ham, cheese, mushrooms, some breakfast potatoes, and a side of bacon. We're going to enjoy this now, and then we're going to go to the fort. Okay, bye.
I'm very pleased with Enlight's lens.
All right, we're on our way to the fort.
Here we go.
Locust Point. Here we are. Fort McHenry, National Monument and Historic Shrine. This is a part of the National Park Service, which has a lot of implications, meaning you have to deal with federal rules, especially if you want to do something like fly a drone. If you wanted to fly an unmanned aerial vehicle here, you cannot take off or land on National Park Service soil. Now, if you did want to fly over the fort, you could take off somewhere other, and I think you should avoid flying in the airspace, but you could fly over the water near it and get some aerial footage. But you can't take off or land from National Park Service grounds. So we'll get in. The cost to get in to the park is $15 per adult. So it'll be $30 to get in. The presentation's free, and let's go, because we only got 27 minutes till the presentation starts. Let's see if we get shot. Two adults.
You going to this work? Okay, so 30?
What a great day.
So we're inside the grounds of the fort. This is the person giving our presentation. She's the park ranger.
I'm going to ask a real quick question. Who's been here before? All right. So everybody else is new to Fort McHenry? Y'all local?
Uh-huh.
Yes? Yes? Okay, not quite local, but all right.
Yes, I did. Very.
I did too. Probably, probably make videos because I want a special. So I recorded their whole thing, depending on how well you can hear with the wind and all.
That's my problem I have.
One of the things that's really totally fascinating about this place is the accessibility. Normally, when you come to a fort or something like that, you're roped off from actually, interacting too closely with it. You can walk up on the battlements, walk up and touch the walls. A lot of this stuff in many places is controlled because they don't want people causing problems with whatever, touching and things like that. But here they clearly encourage it. So we're gonna today. Yeah. Yeah. So now we can walk up on the battlements, and this is, you've got nice brick walkways, and we're gonna go ahead and walk up here. What's going on? It's like drains to keep from flooding.
I like that we're getting into walking outdoors. Oh, okay.
No.
Perfect.
Right? Both sides?
That side too.
Yep.
The whole thing.
Yep.
Bay is way over there. That's the French Mexican Bridge, which is 4 miles away, which is the range of the small Rodman gun here, smaller ones. The large one has a range of 6 miles.
Wow.
Oleonic guns over there have a range of 1.5 miles.
Okay.
Which is about the second green buoy. During the Battle of Baltimore, for 2 miles out, their bomb ships had a range of 2 miles as well as their rocket ships. So they were able to reach the fort, but we couldn't reach back. The rest of the fleet didn't have the range due to them using the same type of cannons we had, as well as elevate the shot high enough to reach the fort. It doesn't look like a very high elevation from the underwater. It might as well be a mountain.
Is this where they sunk the line of merchant ships to block the inner harbor?
Past that green buoy, would have been better. These ships they sunk, and then they would have had a gunboat acting as a weight, as a gate almost.
Okay. Yeah, magazines so they get the powder.
There's Red.
They said that there was actually a mortar, a bomb that was fired and landed in one of the powder rooms, but it was either a dud or had extinguished itself, but it did not go off. British attack lasted 25 hours. Not Klylon cannons.
Oh my God. something that is not welcome.
Heaviest cannons ever mounted, firing exploding projectiles weighing 440 pounds.
No, the crane next to each gun to hoist ammunition.
6 miles these things will fire. The distance to the Key Bridge is 2 miles. I mean, look, you're really well protected from the sea.
Yeah.
You know, they could fire and lob stuff. It would have to, you know, be a pretty lucky shot for them to actually harm you. In the meantime,
Good aim.
you're loading the cannons up and firing them. So, from my understanding, from what Red told us, basically we just sat here and took it for 25 hours until they ran out of ammunition.
You said it, 25 hours.
Yep. They couldn't come close enough to take the city because if they got in range of it, we'd tear them apart. But they sat off out of our range and pummeled this place, and we just sat here and took it. And that was the resilience.
Well, we took it knowing that was what was going to wear them down.
Yeah, we knew at some point they'd run out of ammunition, and then they'd have to run for it, because I'm sure they had smaller guns to defend themselves. But once they were out of ammunition, how do you defend yourself when the U.S. fleet shows up? So like I said, I'm sure they had smaller defensive guns, but once they couldn't fire at us anymore effectively, they just left because they knew they couldn't do anything about it. They were done. Now this part of the battle was the second part. The land battle happened the day before, and they landed 5,000 British troops, and we do. Yeah. So they landed 5,000 British troops over on the northern coast, and they overran our outer defenses, even though we had 10,000 men. But we had 10,000 men in a defensive position over a large area. They had 5,000 men specifically attacking, and they attacked right around where Patterson Park is now, and we drove them off. And once we drove them off, we killed their commanding officer the first day with a sharpshooter. We used to do that kind of stuff. It was not considered gentlemanly, but you know what? We were fighting for our lives.
We were.
And we didn't care about being gentlemen. We wanted to win the war. Yes. And so once we ran off the land, this is when they decided they wanted to try the sea assault and came up. We're firing from down there. Were equally unsuccessful. So.
Perfect. All right, so we're back in the car. We're done with our tour. We had a really great time. Did you enjoy yourself?
I did. I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. And girls like this kind of stuff.
We ran across a guy who was doing a live feed and was responding to comments and stuff, and basically said, yeah, you could even bring a girl here. She probably wouldn't like it, but you could bring her. So.
And I refuse that.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was a great day. Temperature was really nice.
windy, but that's okay. If you like brisk, it was really a fantastic weather day for this kind of thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming by. This is the first and hopefully a series of fun things to do in Baltimore. If you get a chance, you got half a day to spend, you should take a chance, come by and check it out. If you're into history or just good sightseeing, it's perfect. So.
And there were a lot of dogs we ran into, so in certain areas down front, you can take your dogs.
Dog friendly, people were out running, kid friendly, very friendly for kids. So it's a good time. It's a good family time. So if you're in the neighborhood, drop on by.